Welcome, everybody, to the Spawn on Me podcast. I'm your host, Kahlief Adams. This is episode 205. Wow. I'm joined this week and every week, my man, my mellow, the smooth kind of fellow, the man who makes NASA look good, who makes science look good, the man who makes streaming look good, the man who makes Spawn for Good look good, the man who makes Mini Froze look good, the man who makes gaming look great. It is Sharif Jackson of SharifJackson.com. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I finally cleared the hurdle of being sick. Not 100%, but I'm good, maybe 85 or 90. So I can do all my tasks. It just leaves me super drained at the end of the day. But I'm feeling good, man. I'm happy to be back in the mix. Born for Good definitely took a lot out of me. I'm glad I got sick after that. Because that would not have been fun streaming all weekend, hacking up phlegm. But
yuck.
Yeah. But I know you reported earlier that that I streamed for about 36 hours or so, and I will say that I played through and beat several Super Nintendo games I had never played before. And it was a great time. Chat was great. Still waiting to get the donation amounts to see what we raised. But yeah, it would just because I wasn't on last week, I want to personally thank everybody for all the help, all the good jokes, and all the support as well.
Word. Looking real stylish too. I like that jacket. That jacket is looking funky, fresh, and fly, as the young kids say.
Yeah, hey man, this is the Mass Effect Andromeda shirt, which I have some love for, man. I know it was my most disappointing game last year, but that's only because I expected so much of it. I did finish it, and there were some dope characters, and I like the swag. So this is my that I got in my Mass Effect box. So
word. Speaking of swag, we're going to intro our other host. It is Tanya the Path, the person who brings you all the diversity that you can handle up in this world, up in this piece. She added swag to diversity in a way that no one has ever done before. It is Tanya the Path. How are you doing, Tanya?
I'm good. I'm just cracking up because Reef's got his Andromeda swag on. I've got my N7 jacket on. So we're matching. I could just go run and get my Andromeda hoodie, and then you'll be left out. Now you're gonna be left out. You need to get on our level.
I can't do it. I can't. Okay. I'm not there yet. I have to try to figure out how to add some extra stuff. I'm rocking right now N plus MetaNet t-shirt right now that has all the kind of mazes and stuff they put in the game. So we're all donned up with gamer apparel right now. It's kind of dope actually.
It's all payola, man. Where we're all getting paid for this, man. It's payola.
Oh yeah,
it's payola. Yeah,
I didn't know you made. Damn, Tanya, you making that BioWare money? Let me find
all
out.
Them checks,
right?
All them checks are coming in.
Let me find out. I haven't made not one. Well, actually, that's not true. They did pay me when I worked for them, so that's not true. I was
gonna say.
I actually did get paid. Thank you, MetaNet. I love y'all. I actually really rock with them. They were super dope. I love them actually a whole bunch. Thank you everybody again for hanging out and coming through this week. It is Thursday again. We've come back for another one, episode 205. Thank you for listening this week and every week when you come through and hang out with us. It was a lot of fun last week getting in some predictions on the end of the show. Last week, we're going to do a little bit of that because Reef and Tanya didn't get a chance to tell their predictions for 2018. But first, we're going to dig into some of the news of the day. This week has been pretty full of cool stuff. Some of those stories are actually pretty interesting, and we wanted to share some of those with you. Reef, I know that you have put together the docket for this week again. If you want to dig into the first story of this week, we can jump right into it.
Sure. So the first story deals with everyone's favorite topic of 2017, which is also everybody's favorite topic of 2018. Monetizing games, loot boxes, blind boxes, paying for DLC, all that stuff, right? Now, there's been a conversation specifically with, Battlefront 2 and Destiny 2 and Shadow of War, all that stuff where, how much is too much? That's essentially, what the conversation has been, right? And I think most people do recognize that games have become more expensive and they stayed at that at that $60 price point while customers have been demanding, better graphics, better sound, longer stories, all that stuff, right? So I found this report called Project Horseshoe, sort of a game design think tank, and they developed this report that was basically called Ethical Video Game Monetization. And there were some people from Electronic Arts, from Firaxis. So like there was like a nice mix of like people in and outside the industry that contributed to this, and they basically say like, look, like this has to happen. How do we do it ethically? And like I thought that like they had like some pretty good ground rules. The main ground rules that they had here were players should never regret purchasing a piece of content. Companies should never lie to their players about what the content is. And don't change the player contract, meaning like don't like deliver something and then change how it works after the fact. Don't set expectations that are not delivered on, which is a really tough one because especially on a marketing standpoint, everybody wants to promise like the world for everything.
True.
And one that I really like, the verbiage to was respect your players' investments, don't take hostages, and like what this was like basically saying is that we know that people have emotional connections to games, and it's basically like respect that and don't take advantage of it by trying to extract as much money as possible by like playing on those emotions. And we know obviously that these are all for-profit companies with shareholders, and that's their first, every company, the first thing in their reports is increased shareholder value. But at the same time, there's ethics to any company out, not only games, that you don't do that at the expense of certain things. So I like that they're kind of laying down some like a ground rules as a saying, don't basically sell the soul of your company just to try to make, all these things. And and like, I'm not going to read the whole report, but the rest of it is where they basically go over the different kinds of ways that like currently exist, and it tells you how to do it in a ethical way. And I think that the most important ones are obviously like the loot boxes. And one part that I really like, I want to read verbatim. It says, players may not know exactly what they get from a loot box on a given open, but they should know what value to expect, and that value should be delivered. Random elements can be fun and exciting, and there are situations in which randomness enhances a purchase. However, when randomness is used to hide an item's true value or confuse players as to what they are really getting for their money, that player is being lied to, and an ethical line has been crossed. Extremely variable loot box values can also be perceived as gambling, which may invite government investigation, which I don't think anyone wants the government to start telling us how to make games.
That's exactly what
yeah. So want to throw it out to you guys. I'll start with Tanya. Do you think that is possible for companies to balance that line of ethics versus trying to gank you for all your money via several kinds of like monetization?
Yeah, because they have to realize that, I always had issues with the whole ethical or the unethical part of, we're going to rely on this very small subset of people who are spending all of this money, especially in the free-to-play games, things like that, where it's like, they uncharitably call them whales, to fund a lot of the stuff that other players may get or that, goes into the game. I think it's possible, and I think it's about transparency of you have X% chance to get, let's say, this Overwatch skin. You know you're spending your money, but let's say you got a 10% chance to get that one McCree skin you want, for an example. And it's cosmetic. It's not you're not literally paying to win. Because we know, I mean, we can rehash the whole EA thing and how people were mad about that.
Mm.
And I think if there's transparency, if I know, okay, I'm going to give Overwatch $10 and I've got a 50-50 chance to get a skin I want or a weapon I want or something, and I know that going in, then that's on me to spend that money. The only thing I would push back on from that report would be not disappointing the player or the regret part. Because regret isn't always tied to I spent money, I didn't get what I wanted. Because you may spend the money and it's not what you thought it was going to be. It's not going to be, oh, I bought this thing, I bought this weapon, I bought this cosmetic, and it's not quite what I expected, so therefore I have regret. Because
Right.
if I have a wrong expectation, that's on me as a player. Now, if I know going into this, let's say I spend $20 on 5 loot boxes, and I expect a weapon or a special character or whatever, and I don't get it, it's still a chance. It's still randomized. There's no guarantee unless they can say, if you spend $100, you'll definitely get these 2 characters, this rare weapon, whatever it is that you're coming to get. Then you know, that transparency what needs to be. That's where for me the ethics comes in. Say if you spend 5, 10, 15, your chances go up exponentially, and then if you spend 100, then we're going to guarantee you get blah blah blah. That one golden loot box, you're going to definitely get one of these epic whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I've seen different systems kind of experiment with that as well. I know that in reading a lot of the recent like Destiny 2 updates, that there's been talk that that like they will kind of slightly increase your chance to get something if you don't get it on the first kind of their version of loot box, which is like the Bright Ingrams, until you do get it. And like I have seen in like other games where like the more that you pay for a box, it'll say like one guaranteed high level thing and random chances at like other stuff. So I do agree with you that like mixing it up, and like kind of making that transparent is like a good way, to do it. Ka, what's your thoughts on ethics of monetization? Is it possible?
First of all, I wanted to thank you for introducing the economic idea of ganking. I wanted that to be. I want that to be a thing that gets taught in Econ 101. Yeah, it's like supply, demand, and then gank. But it's one of the things that kind of stood out from the article that you shared was the first one actually. The first point that they kind of brought up was that players should not regret purchasing some of these items, and I don't understand that part of the game, and I feel like that's an unreasonable thing to ask for. Like I know that it's a thing that you would want in an altruistic kind of world, but there's no way that you can possibly have that be a thing within like your guidelines of kind of staying ethical when we all know that being in this industry that you have to battle unrealistic expectations all the time. Right, so you have to battle unrealistic expectations. You have to battle misinformation. You have to battle all these other factors that play into how people get their information and absorb it. And say, if you're not abiding by that stuff, you may be crossing ethical lines, which I don't think that's like. It's just a hard line to kind of not cross when you have to deal with some of those things. And you find it in most places that, I think most developers, when they're trying to go through the process of making their games or when they're talking about monetizing some of this stuff. And there was a really interesting argument on my timeline yesterday where there was a game that's been getting a lot of love on Twitch lately. I forgot the name of it. And one of the devs came out and basically said this tweet that was like, it's really... who basically was saying like streamers should understand what it's like to try to grind your way up from the bottom and he didn't understand why they wanted to ask for free codes as opposed to spending the $15 for that particular game that he was a part of. And it's like, that's an ethical part in there, right? Where it's like that developer wants people to kind of engage with their game and have people embrace it. But also was like, if these people who are asking for stuff for free aren't willing to do his stuff for free, then I'm a little bit opposed to it. So it's like there's this weird balancing act that has to go along with trying to figure out how you want your ethics to be displayed and shared while actually butting up against the real world ramifications and the real world practices that we all see in the space. So it's a hard deal. It's smart. It's a smart idea. I just don't think it's practical.
Yeah, I think the reason behind reports like this is you set the ideal, right, and then you drive to it. If you get to it, you just try to get as close to it as possible. I agree that with both you guys that there's so many things outside of your control that can lead to a player feeling cheated or regret it, but you have to do everything on your end to like avoid it. And the way that they specifically talk about like regret in that paragraph is like they say when like a player spends more than they can really afford. Now that's completely out of control of the game, right? Like I don't know how much is in your bank account,
Right.
you know. Now the second thing is when an item's true value is less than anticipated, and anticipated is a curious one because, you know, even if say Bungie in their developer update says this will be this, there will be people say, well, but can it be this? I was disappointed because even though you said it would be that, I wanted it to be this, you know?
Yeah.
So like that's even hard to control. So I do agree that like this is the ideal, but I think it's important to have stuff to strive toward as a company, because you're going to get constant pressure to say, yo, we got to make this money. We got to do the shareholders. We got to exceed these targets. So you also have to have pressure on the other side saying, yo, we got to think about these like other things. So, I mean, I like the idea. I think ethics has obviously become a big part of like various industries, from, you know, sort of banking and home after the housing crisis,
right,
from, you know, after Enron or whatever, all those like oil company stuff. Every time something big and messed up happens, there's always, you know, this kind of discussion in that industry. And I think we've reached that point where, you know, players are like, yo, this is crazy. And it's tanked, you know, things from EA with Battlefront and Activision from Destiny. Like it's directly affected their value and stock prices and stuff like that. So like, I think now we're going to get some movement. And my hope is that companies have, if not documents like this, that they have at least the conversations on the executive levels that say like, hey, we really need to put this as a priority.
Well, my question to both of you is, when was the last time, or was there a last time or recent time where you felt like you bought some DLC or you bought some content in a game that you really liked or wanted to try, and you felt like it did cross an ethical line and didn't kind of play up to some of the rules that are in this document? Do you have any examples of stuff like that, Tanya, in your recent gaming stuff?
It might be stuff in Destiny 2, and I've spent actual money on Destiny 2 like one time.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like I got a lot of stuff for value of a lot of stuff, you know, real money versus game currency, but none of it was useful. And I think maybe that's where they were trying to get at with the regret part.
Yeah.
Because, okay, I've given you 10 actual US dollars for these in-game credits, and I knew there was a chance on what I'd get, but none of it was, even cosmetically, nothing was anything I really was just like, oh, I got this cool, like, I almost called it a duster. I can't remember the right word for shader. That's it. Like, I got a cool shader in some color I'm going to, like, hoard or whatever. It's like, because I just feel like there are a lot of things in Destiny where people are like, oh my God, I must have it, but you can grind for it and get it.
Right.
So and it was only $10. I know there are people who probably spend a lot more on like in-game currency,
Mm-hmm.
but at the end of the day, it's still intangible. It belongs to Destiny and Bungie and these other people, because they shut all this shit down tomorrow. All that money people spent is gone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's the intangible part of all of this that I don't think people are looking at, where I spent all this money on loot boxes, whatever, and with at least a game like Destiny or Overwatch, where let's say something catastrophic happens and those games shutter in a week.
Right.
All of that money, all of those things are gone. You have nothing. So, everybody's talking about loot boxes. Look at music and iTunes and what they did with, you don't actually own this. We're going to give you this U2 album, even if you don't want it. And things like that.
That's right.
Oh yeah, I still have that album on my phone to this day.
They just gave it to you.
They were like, "Here's your shitty YouTube album."
Right. So what if they decide this is like what was the gauntlet that they pulled out of Destiny 2 because it turned out there was like something equivalent or like tied to hate groups.
Oh right.
Right. That's right. Yeah. It was like one of the pieces of armor had one of those like white supremacist logos,
like
or it was very
Ks back to back. Yeah.
Right. It's very similar to it. I don't think it was actually that. But
so think about that, the intangibility of all of this. And like, what if it's someone who spent like $1,000 or 500 or 100, and for whatever reason, they say, you know what, this content's no good, or there's something wrong with it, and we pulled it. Am I getting my money back?
Right.
Because I've invested in your game, and now you've pulled that content that I have spent virtual roulette with actual money trying to get.
I kind of want to hear the conversation when you have to like put in your complaint and you're like, yo, I really wanted this racist gauntlet, and I don't appreciate the fact you took this racist gauntlet out of the game. I was really enjoying this racist gauntlet, and how could you do that to me? That's fucked up. I want my money back. I want to hear that in the customer support channels of like, yo.
Like, what do you do at that point? You're like, I'm sorry, we won't let you be a racist in this game. Here's your $5.
Right. Reef, did you have anything in your space too that you felt like you might have gotten, cheated out of an experience or cheated out of your money in some way?
I think cheated is a strong word. I don't know if I felt cheated, but I've definitely been disappointed in DLC. But I'm very picky. I don't buy season passes. I know some people buy them automatically.
Yeah.
I only buy them for games I really, really like. And like, I'm like, if I take the L, I can't complain. So like for Destiny, I bought the season pass. For The Division, I bought the season pass. For Mafia 3, I bought the season pass. But for like most games, I don't, because I'm like, yo, I really like, I don't know. Like I can't guarantee that I'm going to be that into the game when you roll out your second DLC a year from now. Mm-hmm. Like I'm not prepaying $50 on that gamble. I think the last time I was really disappointed, I guess, was with which Call of Duty was it? I believe it was it wasn't like World War II. I think it was the Kevin Spacey one, which just reminds me I should play that again just because, spoiler alert, Kevin Spacey gets thrashed and dies. So I'd like to see him die virtually, just like,
damn.
Yeah. He's
wow.
Damn.
He's a bad person. He's a bad person, y'all. He's a bad person.
Damn, I'm clipping just that part of the show with no context.
I remember on that one, and I usually never buy the Call of Duty DLC stuff, but like I did, I like bought some, and they gave you, a couple maps, couple new weapons. I mean, I could see if you play it every day, cool. But for somebody that occasionally jumps in, it was just totally not worth it. I was like, that's it?
Yeah.
But like I can understand if you play a game every day, then adding a few new weapons makes a huge difference, and like adding a few new maps makes a huge difference. So I just don't buy DLC unless I'm like super, super into a game. And that's not many at all.
It's really hard to determine sometimes like what I will perceive as a bad purchase when it comes to certain things, because I kind of give developers for the most part benefit of the doubt that they're trying to do some good work or some of the things that are coming are going to be worth the money that I'm going to spend. But I'm like forever in that camp of like buyer beware is a real thing. Like you have to be paying attention and be an informed consumer about, thinking about both past practices and, is that game going to be worth the extra money that you're going to be paying for content that you really don't understand what you're going to get. So like a Call of Duty game, I can purchase a pack or some DLC packs, but I know what I'm going to get. I know I'm more than likely getting just maps, right? And maps are fine. Like I know that's the thing I'm going to get. DLC that comes along with like a sports game or sometimes even single player games. Most times those things don't really do anything. Like they're not going to be extra stuff that's going to be really good for the consumer or good for the player. It's not going to be enough things that's going to actually equate what that stuff is going to wind up being. So it's like, again, like buyer beware is a real thing. I think that's the thing that we have to kind of think about, and we have to be really particular about those things so that you don't feel like you got cheated out of your money. Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to move on to the next story of the show. This one I actually really liked. It was one that was on Kotaku. It was talking about what keeps you from starting games that you already own. That was a really interesting topic to bring up because I know that my pile of shame currently is deep. My pile of shame is no joke right now. I have so many games that I have not kind of either started or gone back to or have really dug into and started the process of going through because I feel like I just don't have enough time. But that's not just my reasoning. What are some of those games that you kind of feel like you have that hesitancy to kind of jump into first? Tanya, I want to go to you first on this one because I think you and I have a huge pile of shame that we hint at all the time of like, how the hell are we going to get this thing done? Yeah. So what are some of those games that you kind of feel like you're afraid to jump into at first?
My pile of shame is behind this green screen. That's why it's really there. October 27th, 2017 is why nobody started any new games. I'm sure that Paris, who's in the chat, will agree. It felt like everything under the sun came out that day and kind of started this domino effect of there's either DLC for a game I'm not done yet, or in my case, I got to switch like 20 years late after everybody else, so I'm catching up. And also, I've been going back to old games. I've actually been replaying Skyrim. I've been replaying Mafia 3. I hopped on other games because it's almost overwhelming. And, folks know, like, either you got a job, we have the podcast, I travel, I write. And I feel like with new games, I want to sit down and give it my full attention. And too often I have to kind of get through a game to either talk about it or write about it. And it just feels like there was this like cavalcade of games that just came out and they're just kind of either sitting there or I want them. And it's almost like too much choice, that paralysis you get when there's too much choice.
Yeah.
And you're just like, where do I go? What do I start? And, like I'm not done with Breath of the Wild. I'm not done with everything came out on October 27th. And it's the holidays. And a lot of it is also just kind of, and this is me being a curmudgeon. And I know I'm being a curmudgeon. I freely admit it. But when games get a lot of hype, it kind of kills it for me. And because I also stream, there's that added part of if I stream something, I don't want to be that person that's like literally streaming the same game that everyone is streaming. Like I'm sure tomorrow or midnight at 12:01, whatever time zone, everyone and their mother is going to be streaming Monster Hunter World.
Everybody.
Yep.
And I want to play it and I'm going to enjoy it, but it's a lot. Like there's just too much, and it's like I'd rather go back to an old favorite and chill with that. Like give me Skyrim, give me Dragon Age 2. I can play that. I cannot think too hard about it instead of having to also feel like we have to keep up and catch up because of what we do. There's a lot of if you're not current, then you're behind or whatever. And while I want to keep up on news, there's only so many hours in the day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like some in the chat's talking about they haven't started Persona 5. I got that as a gift. I've got it. I played like 3 hours, and it was just like, I'm never going to finish this game.
I want to play that. I don't even have it. I want to play it.
Right? Like, I've got it. Like, you know, talking about you haven't finished Assassin's Creed Origins. And also I just think there's this rush to finish games. I'd be like, I finished it, and I'm going to go play it on the hardest mode ever.
Nope.
Yeah.
No, look, no, like regular difficulty on XCOM 2 was kicking my ass last night. You know, like so many team wipes, and you know, I don't know what it is. It's like this. I finished it. I can talk about it, and it's like you just flew through a $65 game in like 20 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Why? So you know, there's also that I'm not in a race. I'll play the game when I play it.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's me.
Yeah, and I can feel you on the old game tip because I've been enjoying Skyrim so much, and I think part of it is after playing sort of Witcher 3, Horizon, Breath of the Wild, kind of like the new generation of Skyrim games, I can almost appreciate Skyrim more because it came out so long ago, and it's super clunky and glitchy and all that stuff. But man, like I feel like I wasn't as into it when it originally came out. Like I played it, but I didn't quite get it. And now I get it, man. And I'm finding so much stuff in that game that I didn't even come close to finding when I first played it. I mean, it almost feels like a brand new game to me, and I'm really, really enjoying it.
That's dope. That's dope.
But I did open up my Steam list just to see a few of the recent games that I own that I have not even played once. Doki Doki Literature Club, Hollow Knight, Night in the Woods.
Oh man, you haven't played Hollow Knight? Dang.
No, I played Hollow Knight.
Wow.
Nier Automata, I've not played. Hellblade, have not played. And that's without like scrolling down.
Right? Wow.
So,
I'm
like,
not even going to talk about how many games I got.
Yeah, and like these are all games that, you know, they were in people's Game of the Year lists and top things, but I just could not get to them. I mean, it took me so much energy to beat Assassin's Creed and Wolfenstein, which I did in like January. Mm-hmm. Sorry, well, it's still January, but this month, it took me like a huge effort to do that. And, you know, it's just been, I mean, another part of it is, you know, just because the nature of my job, because I'm so mobile that, you know, I do a lot of gaming on the Switch now, you know, so it's like that's where a lot of my gaming has like happened. So like a lot of my PC games and my PS4 games have suffered a bit. But yeah, and like even games that came out a while ago, like Injustice 2, I've not played. Wow. No idea why I haven't played that game. I love Injustice 1.
It's so good.
I played the Injustice 2 beta for a while. I just missed it. I just didn't have time. I was like, man, there's 20,000 games out. So 2018 is going to be the year where I play 2017 games. Because honestly, there's not. Xenoblade 2 on the Switch haven't started yet, and that's like a God knows how long Japanese RPG.
Right.
So like, yeah, I mean, it's like there's not that many new games coming out where I'm like, I have to play this. I mean, there's definitely high profile ones like your God of Wars and Sea of Thieves and stuff, but there's nothing where I'm like, I got to drop everything and play it. So I honestly think, at least for the first half of the year, I'm just going to be focusing on these older games.
Yeah.
You know?
That makes sense. I mean, I have my pile of shame too, and I'm still trying to boogie my way through half of that stuff. The thing that's keeping me hesitant from really adding new things to my list is because I feel like I just haven't given those games enough love already. Like I still have. It was interesting to hear other people in retrospect talk about games that I thought were crappy, and talk about them in glowing terms. And then I was like, wait a minute, maybe I should go back and check that game out. Like, people who I respect their opinions, somebody was like, oh yeah, Mass Effect Andromeda wasn't that bad. People gave it a raw deal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, did they give it a raw deal? Or was it like you're just like hyping it up because you are like contrarian, or you just really stand for a thing? But I didn't give that game any love at all when it came time to playing it. And I feel like I can't really give that game, reasonable marks or reasonable once over without having like really gone through it and played it. So I have to try to figure out time to add that into the mix. And then there's like that plus just having your usual games that you have in your rotation. Like I know I have like my before I go to bed games. People have heard me talk about how I like all the really bad, terrible, stressful games before I go to bed. Like I'll play Fortnite before I go to bed. Like Battle Royale. I'll play like Darkest Dungeon before I go to bed. Like I'll play Paragon before I go to bed. It's like all these games that I should not be playing that will stress you the hell out. Those are the games I usually kind of play before I go to sleep. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting time to see what's going to happen in 2018 with, again, it feels like there's a lot of heavy hitters in 2018. It doesn't seem like we're going to get the volume that we had in 2017 though so far. And I think that's going to be a blessing for everyone's hands and their brains and their eyes and
their wallet.
And their wallet, because it has been madness for the past year. 2017 was like bringing the ruckus real hard. So we'll see. Is there anything that you said, Reef, you were talking about Nier Automata. What is your game that you feel like if you were to go back right now and say, I'm going to drop everything else that I already have that I'm playing, what's going to be the game that you're like, of that list, that you feel like you would jump into first?
I think it'd probably be Nier.
Yeah.
Just because, I typically agree with most of the Giant Bomb crew. They had Nier pretty high up, and I've heard pretty divisive stuff on Nier. I've heard that it's like sort of a game that you love, even though it has a lot of flaws. Mm-hmm. I'm also a sucker for things about robots and androids and that kind of stuff. So it's definitely, I never played the first game in the series, so I don't have any attachment to it. But it just seems to tell a good story, not only about robots, but like humanity, which I think sounds like cool. So that would probably be the first one, because honestly, that's what I did with Wolfenstein. Yeah. So many people were talking about Wolfenstein. I was like, I got to see what is going on here, because even though I enjoyed Wolfenstein: The New Order, I didn't think it was like this, super great story. But the new Colossus did ramp it up a notch. Yeah. And Origins, I just had to play through, and I was very, very happy with that as well. I almost wish I could have finished these last year, because it might have affected some of my votes during our Game of the Year show, but yeah, it's like it's like you only got so much time. Like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, Tanya, what about you? Anything that comes to the top of your mind about your pile of shame that you might want to dig into in 2018 right off the bat?
I actually want to get back to Nier and what else? Because it just feels like there was so much. I'm going to say this is probably going to shock people, but I do want to try Cuphead.
Word?
Oh, nice.
Word?
I do. Because here's the thing.
I will buy you a copy of Cuphead.
Okay, you know my Steam ID. Buy it right now.
I will buy you
right now.
I will buy you a copy. I will gift you a copy.
Live podcasting purchase.
I feel like it should be a thing that comes up as a notification on the screen. Gifted Cuphead to Tanya.
I'm not the one streaming. But here's my justification for it. And I know people are probably going to be like, you talked all that shit about Cuphead. Thing is, I don't dislike hard games. I remember we grew up with Frogger and Contra, One Life. It's not that I hate hard games. But I have watched enough people play it. I may or may not stream it. I don't know, because I don't want to hear anybody's shit if I stream it. But if somebody buys me a copy, I may do it. But people I respect and people that I know, like Danny from Gamertag and other folks, have played it, My issue was always the cult-like adoration that was rising up around it.
Right.
The way that people were treating it like a new Dark Souls, and if you don't play it, you're not a real gamer. That was always my issue with it, not the game unto itself and being hard, because every game isn't for everybody. So, for me, it's also that challenge of kind of going back to my roots, going back to something like Contra or, Castlevania or Ghosts and Ghouls and Ghosts.
Yes.
Where we played all those hard ass games and that's all we had to play. So, right, Danny? And it's like, it's also a test for me. So it's not that I ever hated the game, and that's where I think a lot of people got confused.
Yeah. I'm with you on that though, because that was a turnoff to me too. And I was one of those people who was like, yo, this game is great. I love the fact that it's hard. I wish people would kind of, I wish people would kind of engage with the hard parts of it and, take that challenge on. But I can totally see how that extra layer of it definitely was kind of gross. And that's the thing again, that's like the part of get good culture that no one likes. It's a dumb thing. It's a dumb thing in and of itself. And once it gets magnified like that, it's not fun for anybody. But speaking of hard thing that we are going to do is we are going to take ourselves a 2-minute break, get some water. I'm going to find my wallet so I can gift Cuphead to Tanya. And we're going to be right back after this. Welcome back, everyone, to episode 205 of the Spawn on Me podcast. Again, I'm your host, Kahlief Adams, joined with Tanya DePass and Sharif Chicky Jackson, coming to you live from Chicago. Yeah, we have a lot of cool stuff, at the back end of the show. One of the things that, again, has been taking up massive amounts of our time, we talked about this on the last, maybe even 2 podcasts or 2 episodes about Overwatch League and how Overwatch League is kind of taken over at least my life in terms of watching everything that I possibly can. But there, as in most sports, there's going to be some kind of issue with the way that people have been interacting with both the audience and with the players. So, Reef, want to dig into the Overwatch issue of the day?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Overwatch League, what's been discussed on the show so far is the fact that, they made some really large numbers. Arguably, they said greater than Thursday Night Football during their launch. The online streams of Thursday Night Football, I should say, not the TV ratings. And you guys also last week talked a bit about, the diversity problem, the fact that there's no women on any of the 8 teams. And that, Blizzard is a company that prides itself on diversity. Overwatch is a game that prides itself by having different heroes, different body types, by having like their lead character be a woman in a Tracer, who I also believe is queer as well. So they pride themselves on this. So the fact that, that their teams don't have any women is just bizarre. And it's not just that they don't have them, but the fact that some of the statements that were made by some of the managers were basically like some statements that people were making when Jackie Robinson was breaking into the league, like, oh, it's going to mess with our team cohesion, and we don't know if the league is ready, and all this kind of just bullshit. So that stuff is still going on, and as much as I watch the stuff, I don't know. It's like I face this thing where I'm like, do I just not watch? Like, do I watch it because maybe they'll be like, well, people are watching anyway, so maybe it's not that big of a deal. So it's a struggle that I deal with a lot. But the specific article that I posted was about Overwatch's personality problem, right? So they talk about number 1, the diversity issue. Number 2, there was recently a player that got suspended because he made fun of another player that was gay, and and basically shouted some slurs on mic in his direction, and they suspended him, which I liked. Like, they fined him and suspended him immediately, which I feel like is longer than it takes the NBA and NFL to do things.
That's true.
Yeah, and and they talk about the overall kind of personality thing, how to sell esports in general, you have to kind of be like the Olympics, where you have to get people invested in the individual players, where they came from, what their passions are. Like you need some like obviously they all have like nicknames because they're gamers, but you know, getting people more involved with their journey, and that's something that I feel like they still struggle with, especially when some of the better players, as most of the Blizzard games are Korean. You know, so you have like the language barrier, and the translators don't always do a great job, and like you kind of lose that raw emotion during the interviews. So, you know, obviously, like the league is very, very early, right? But I like that they're talking about these like issues. I do think that the issue with no women is just bullshit that needs to be handled immediately. And like I don't even mean in terms of like we need to get people right now, but like they need to be making at least some statements that say, hey, we are about this and we need to fix, you know, like we need to fix this. Like it needs to be a priority. Our league needs to represent the, you know, the actual competitive player base, and right now it does not, you know.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about like personality, not only in like Overwatch but in esports in general? Do you think that it is, you know, that it will be a challenge to like kind of sell these esport athletes the same way that you would sell like an Olympic athlete? And do you think that like some of the kind of game, you know, quote unquote gamer talk, such as the slurs and, you know, misogynistic like remarks and like that kind of stuff that they use as excuses to say, well, this is why we can't have like more like diversity. Do you think that are actual challenges that can be solved, or do you think they're insurmountable? So I'll start with Ka this time.
Interestingly enough, the place that I see that being a really interesting peek into, besides just the Overwatch League with the, you know, the obstacles that you kind of talked about and shared, the place that I was thinking about even more that needs to be able to kind of make that leap is with a newer league as well, the NBA 2K League that's going to be starting fairly soon. They're going to be doing their kind of tryouts in the next couple of months. And if you've paid any attention to the streamer base that's in that community specifically, it's rife with not great language, and, you know, with it, and just interestingly enough, being a predominantly POC centered community that plays that game, with folks who are especially in Black and brown communities as well. Hip hop culture adds a layer to it that is not something that a lot of NBA teams have wanted to cater themselves to. They've kind of wanted to shun that stuff and move away from it in various ways. So I can totally see there being some point when 2K, unless it's on like a tape delay, and they'll probably do a tape delay, where I can see somebody being like, yo, that nigga did such and such and blah, blah, blah. And then they're going to freak the hell out. Like, there's going to be a moment where some of that stuff leans itself into it, and then they're not going to know what to do. And I wonder what their things are going to be at that point. Because, again, it's like personality driven. If you have people who are going to be representatives of not only the 2K League, but also that being a subset of the actual NBA, it's going to be really interesting to see how they deal with all those kind of crossovers and what that Venn diagram of hip hop culture, urban culture, all those things kind of mashed up together are going to look like. So I think they have an even bigger hurdle to think about in comparison to even what Overwatch League has. So that's going to be real interesting. Tanya, what do you think?
You know, if Blizzard is going to tout itself as like, oh, we want people to be better and play nice, they need to really crack down on it. You know, yeah, it's one thing when we're talking shit with our friends, because I have the foulest mouth when I'm playing multiplayer more than usual. But when it's me and my friends and we are friends, and we can say that we know no harm, no foul, 'cause we're just talking shit while we're playing Division or Overwatch or whatever. That's one thing, but this is a professional sports league. You want me to pay money, do whatever to watch these people play Overwatch. And if you want to tout yourself as like, so diverse and whatever, there's sportsmanlike conduct that you should be enforcing. These are people that have signed big money contracts to play a video game professionally. And, reading the article, dude knew what he said was wrong because they mentioned how he had that split second, oh shit, what did I just say? Then if he realized it was wrong, he got fined, he got suspended, there should be kind of you want to be the gold standard, you have to hold your players up to it.
Exactly.
Because when when we're on Twitch, when we're on Mixer, whatever, or if I'm just like, we're on, on voice chat and it's us, I can say shit to y'all or to my friends, my other friends that I would never dare say to someone if I was streaming. Right. So let's be real, even streaming, people kind of forget themselves. There are some people I'm just like, ooh, did you forget you're broadcasting to hundreds of people right now? So I think there should be a code of conduct, and it should be held up because you want people to cheer for these folks. You want people to buy merchandise. You want them to feel good about it. But here's the thing. Other than the coverage I've seen, I refuse to watch the Overwatch League because there's no women. There's barely any people of color. How are you going to have Tracer as your fucking league logo and not have any women? Be like, oh, wait your turn, whatever. No. You want me to buy your merch, play your game, buy your fucking loot box, invest emotionally in this league like it's, other sports, then give me that representation that you're touting in every other way. So until there are actually women, the fact that you're excluding one of the best Overwatch players ever as a female player, that tells me you don't actually care. This is not about the best. Then if you're going to give me some bullshit excuse as to why you don't have any female players, not a lot of people of color, nah. Because I was playing before the show, and it's like, I'm not giving you my time and attention if you can't give me that rep that you're so proud of.
Yeah. And that was, man, that statement alone just like blew me away because I didn't put those two things together really quick, and it was so true. Like Tracer is literally the mascot, like the silhouette of the league, and it's so, man, dropping knowledge. I feel like that was a good joint where right after you said that, the whole reading Rainbow should have just come up right after that shit.
See, this is why you gotta get a stream deck so you can like have those reactions on deck.
Yeah, sure.
I know. I have it. I just don't know how to make all the cool stuff happen. Anyway,
I'll work with you. I'll get you right.
We gotta figure it out. My question, upgrade me on it for real. My question to both of you is, okay, so we see that they are not doing that part of the game, right? And they haven't really figured out. They do it in terms of their presentation, but I wonder, do you think that with this new kind of uptake in esports becoming something that's bigger, something that's getting more prevalent, and people are putting money and effort and resources behind, do you think that there's going to be a level of media training that's going to be pushed into this that we haven't seen before? Do you think that's going to be something that's going to be a part of just the normal thing that we see, or is this going to be something that people are going to have to specifically ask for when they find themselves getting to bigger stages with more people and more visibility? Reef, you jump in on that one.
Well, it depends on what you mean. Do you mean like, is media training going to be like something they look for when they recruit people, or because I think that they're going to recruit people that are the best that they can afford and then media train them.
Right.
I mean, I think that, again, as like Tanya said, these are well paid. I believe they start at like $50,000 a year. They have health insurance. They have like, there's a good salary to play games, So if you want that salary, like Tanya said, if you want to be part of the gold standard, you got to act that way. I don't think it's a lot to say, don't give a slur on camera. You know what I mean? I mean, like I'm not asking for some crazy thing. I mean, and it's not like these guys have their mic audio broadcast 24/7 as they're playing. It's just like when they mic up NBA, NFL players. They don't play the times when they curse. They just show you like the little thing where like they say like, yeah, good job. You know? They don't play the 95% of the time when these guys are cursing up a storm up and down the court. So I'm like, yo, just like, I don't think you need media trained people. That's never going to dominate over the skill, but you need to media train people when they're in. And if they mess up, you got to hit them hard, suspend them, fine them. Don't make it like some small thing, I mean, I believe the dude got fined $4,000, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And sorry, no, it was a $2,000 fine. On $50,000, that's actually quite a hefty fine.
Yeah.
If you're making 50 and that's gross, like, you know what I mean? So you got to hit them hard, and everybody has to be united on the management side that this is not what our league is going to stand for.
What do you think, Tanya, about the media training side of all this?
That should be part and parcel of the whole thing. Because, again, you have a AAA company sponsoring you. You're out there as their gold standard, and this is the best of the best who plays our game. Most of these people don't have to think about what they say in the media. They're used to sitting there trash talking with their friends, which is how we got in the situation. Now the spotlight's on them. Now they have to be personalities. And nobody probably trained them for that.
Right.
So that should be part and parcel. You sign this contract a week before you actually go live. You're going to sit here and have media training. You're going to learn how to respond to questions. You're going to learn how to respond in a way that doesn't embarrass Blizzard or yourself. I think it should be part of it. And actually anybody who's front-facing, like all these bigger streamers who you see them give interviews or they act the way they do on their stream. And you just go, I just kind of wonder how you got where you are if you don't know how to actually answer questions and not sound like you're on COD with your boys at midnight after y'all been smoking and drinking all night in an interview.
Yep. The interesting part about that is to see people who do act like that and still get the shit that they want and and companies still support them and still give them money and still give them airtime and all this other stuff.
I mean, because let's yeah. But also let's look at at Twitch. I'm going to pick on Twitch, even though I love the platform and we're using it right now.
Right.
Look at the ratio of people of color that are partners. Look at the black women that are partners.
Well, Snoop is a partner now, so that's all that matters, right?
And Snoop doesn't have that revenue button on there because he don't need it.
Exactly.
They gave him partner status because of who he is.
Oh yeah, they totally did.
Yeah.
That shit was madness.
He just pretends to play games and smokes weed on air.
And
he had how many people watching him play? What is it, SOS?
Yeah, he had 80,000 people. Like, okay, no bullshit. Whoever the folks who were working in rocking PR for SOS,
that's
I gotta
genius.
give you the hats off and salute, because that was smart as hell. And everybody out there who on Twitter thought I was trying to snitch and narc on Snoop for asking a question, I wasn't trying to narc on Snoop.
No, what?
So I asked the question because he came on and he had like 80,000 people, and I was like, is like smoking weed? Because he was just like, yo, I'm just like smoking the fattest blunt on freaking on air. And I was like, he's talking, it's smoking Iggy Wiggy, smoking it. I was like, what are you talking about? Smoking all this weed on a thing. And I was like, this is not like breaking terms of service anywhere. Like, can anybody from Twitch like tell me if like this is like a thing?
Hey, I mean, it's legal in California.
And that was the thing, Reef. It was bugged out because I had half the people who were like, who were reasonable. They were like, no, it's like it's legal in your state. You can smoke as much weed on stream as you want. And then I had like this whole other bunch of people that was like, yo, Ka, stop snitching, P. Yo, stop being a narc, son. Then why you narking on Snoop, B? Like, how you trying to narc on Snoop? I was like, I'm asking a question because I'm in Portland. So
How are you
I might
narking?
puff out next show. I might just be here just smoking on the next show. Y'all don't even say
How are
nothing.
you narking on someone broadcasting to 80,000 people? I don't understand this. How are you the snitch?
Like, and it wasn't like the
You're
way
the snitch.
It wasn't like I posed the question in like a way that was like, take Snoop off the air. I don't want to see this stuff because my children and children's children don't want to see this kind of drug use on the gosh darn TV. It wasn't like that. I was just like, yo, is this breaking terms of service? I just want to know. Because shit, episode 206, I'm just going to be lit. I'm going to be high than a motherfucker on 206. It's going to be that. But, oh my God, it's madness. I was just like, okay, Snoop just doing this thing. That was craziness. But we'll see what happens with that. I think Microsoft might have been high when they decided that they wanted to give everyone their first party games with the game subscription Game Pass that they're doing. It seems like Game Pass from Microsoft is going to be a thing. If you've already purchased your Xbox Live subscription, which means you're buying and playing for $60 a year, the ability to play on their service. There will be another subscription that you'll be able to purchase called Xbox Game Pass, which let's see, how much is it going to cost per month? It's going to be
$10.
extra $10 a month. It's going to also be launching in a 6-month subscription version as well for $60 a year. You can pay that up front if you'd like to, which they said was in a weird way, like it's going to be in special places. So like, I'm thinking it's going to be, maybe they'll do something with Amazon or with a Best Buy.
It'll probably just be a gift card. It'll probably be any place you can buy gift cards. You can probably pick up
something to that effect. But the catch is that what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to play their first party games day one if you buy that Game Pass. So you'll be able to, if you have it, just download those games when they come out, which is huge. That's
great.
Huge get for them on their side.
Yes.
I want to ask both of you, what do you think about this being a thing? Tanya, I want you to go first.
I think it'll be good, and it's only $10 a month. Because honestly, like Xbox Gold isn't an appeal for me. I keep paying it because there are some games where I want to play with folks. But if I can get Xbox Game Pass, $60 up front, granted, it's going to be $60 for 6 months versus a year. But to get all these games unlocked, I've already got EA Access. So should I just get that, kill EA Access, and be like, just give me everything?
Right.
But I think it's good, but it's kind of like, do we get into that weird question of what's the profit loss and I'm gaining a lot by getting first day access on this pass program if I'm just giving them $60 for 6 months.
Right.
So where's the incentive to buy a brand new game? So that's what I'm like, it's all, I'm like waiting for the other shoe to drop. It feels too good to be true.
Right.
I'm like, what's the catch?
Well,
so
but I think you need to think about it though, that you're right that it does disincentivize you from buying those first party games on launch, but Microsoft can count on getting revenue every month from however many people buy to it. That's something they could count on, budget, and do all that stuff. So they're kind of giving up these big spikes when the games come out, right, and kind of smoothing out those purchases. I mean, I can see it making sense in that way.
Yeah, I mean, we also got to consider all the backwards compatibility they've added in. I mean, honestly, I'm using my Xbox One more to play the 360 games that I haven't touched, and maybe I want to stream them because they're older games. I don't know. I'm still more of a PS4 person, and I know my buddies at Xbox are probably going to give me that look when they see this. But it would get me to play my Xbox a lot more. And a lot of the first party games are games that, maybe if I get an X1X, I would upgrade to that.
Yeah.
but there's not a lot of first party games that are like, oh my god, I gotta play my Xbox right now, or like for me, it's kind of like it's the equivalent of EA Access, but with first party day one access.
Mm-hmm. The thing that I'm worried about and haven't heard anything said about is what happens if you decide to stop paying for your service. Do you lose those games or access to it?
Yeah, of course you do.
That's
I mean, yeah.
I mean, it's like,
but,
yeah, but I'm
why
buying
does that
it.
suck though? That's the service.
Well, I guess so.
But
I mean,
same thing with PlayStation Plus.
Yeah.
If I stop paying PlayStation Plus, those
Yeah,
games
you lose
go by.
all those games.
well, not the game. I mean, but you don't lose. You lose internet. I mean, you lose multiplayer access. You don't lose the ability to play that game.
I think you
Yes,
lose
you
the
do.
games. You lose the
Really?
games.
It
yes.
warns you when you download your PlayStation Plus games. It's like this game is yours as long as you got a valid PS Plus subscription.
Oh, yeah,
so it's the same thing.
Oh,
That,
you're right.
yeah, because that happened to me when like I got hacked, and I lost my my primary console. My PS Plus games showed up with a lock on them, and when I clicked on them to like a play, it said renew PlayStation Plus for access.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. That's
So-
true.
So I will say this, y'all, this is a tremendous idea.
Uh huh.
Yeah, and
now, huh? What's up, Tony?
no, it's just Wallstormer made a point in the chat that's saying the differences with games with gold on Xbox, you keep those games.
Right. Right.
Oh yes. This is different from that. So this, I think, is a game changer. Microsoft will not catch up with Sony this generation, but they got to hit hard. This is an amazing deal.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy a Xbox One S, One X, whatever. You can pay $120 a year and get acting and be able to play not only those day one games like Sea of Thieves and every Forza and Gears and Halo and like all that stuff, but I'm looking at the catalog of you can do Bayonetta, you can do Deadlight, you can do Gears 4, you can do Resident Evil, you can do Metal Gear Solid 5, and you can do a bunch of like 360 games as well, and some indie games, like iDarb, and Layers of Fear, NBA Playgrounds, Limbo, Massive Chalice. I mean, I feel like this is like you could literally buy a system, pay $120, and have enough games to play, and that's it.
Yeah.
As long as you don't feel like you have to play everything, I think this is incredible. Like, there's no other system doing anything like this.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's amazing, and the fact that it also works with Play Anywhere titles as well. So this also works with PC games. So I don't own an Xbox, but I could pay the $10 a month and be able to download any game that has a Windows version, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is crazy. I think this is incredible. I think, again, this is the kind of stuff that I think Microsoft was thinking about back when they were talking about the Xbox One back around launch, when like they were trying to sell it as this ultra connected and online, and when we would do all these crazy like the like pricing models and that stuff. They had to fall back on a lot of that stuff, but I think now we're finally seeing what they were going with it. If they had this early, even though I still argue Sony has the better sort of first and second party catalog, I think this would have made a huge difference. This is amazing.
I think this is game changing in a lot of ways, and I agree with both of you. My one demerit that I would give them, or a thing that I would want them to do differently with this program is as opposed to making it a secondary subscription model, I would have much rather this had been a level up on or a new tier of Xbox Live that you would pay for. I think that to me would be a better valuation or a better value for most people who are in the space already, to be like, yo, so you have Xbox Gold. If you get like Xbox Platinum, this is already folded into it. You pay extra. You maybe pay a little bit extra on the front end, but you keep those games. You do a lot of you get a couple of other perks in it that go along with it. And I feel like if you were marketing it that way, it would be more attractive than trying to message this new subscription service when Xbox consoles already have multiple versions of subscription services that they want you to kind of jump in on with EA Access, Xbox Live, and now this. So I think it would make a lot of sense to bundle that stuff up.
Well, I think the reason why they decided not to do that, and I kind of agree with them on this, is because you don't need Xbox Live to have Game Pass. Now, obviously, you need Xbox Live to do the multiplayer on any of the games that require it.
Right.
But they're allowing you access to their servers to download these games infinite amount of times and all that stuff without gold, which is kind of crazy. I thought they were going to require gold for this. But I was reading up on it, and yeah, you don't need gold for it. So I think that's why they wanted to unbundle it, because my guess is they have some metrics that show that there's a significant amount of people that don't have gold, which I know is crazy for us to imagine.
Right.
If you think about how many different families have this console, and some people just, they just don't sign up for that stuff. So I think that they're looking for that. They're thinking that there's enough people that can't convince, maybe their parents, or they don't want to spring for like a gold and buying games, but they'll be like, hey, I can play a bunch of single player games for $10 a month. I'm down.
That makes sense. Makes sense. I want to see how this plays itself out, and I want to see how the adoption rate for this is. It makes me more curious than I was before. I'm lucky enough to have one of the consoles and be able to play all that stuff, but I do wonder how this is going to play itself out with people who don't have to review stuff and don't want to, do all that kind of stuff as well, if they feel like this is a good value for them. But seeing just how many people are having so much fun with Sea of Thieves already this past week, that feels like that's going to be a home run for them when that stuff comes out. So before we get up out of here, we wanted to give Reef and Tanya their chance to share some of their predictions for 2018, since they were not with us last week. If you were familiar with the format, we kind of go things that you want to see in the world, and then we go real crazy and say what are the things that you may think are pie in the sky kind of predictions, and things that you may kind of want to jump into and say, who knows if that's going to be a real thing that happens, but I would love to see it. So we're going to go around the table before we get up out of here. Reef, I want to hear some of your predictions for 2018. What is your kind of easy to get one, or most wanted one for 2018?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's necessarily easy to get, but I think that the Xbox One X gets an exclusive game. I know they said that the Xbox One X will not get exclusive games. I know they said that every game will be cross-compatible, but my prediction is that, maybe if it's not a game, some sort of exclusive feature on a game, and like I'm not talking about 4K HDR stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about some sort of exclusive thing on the X that you literally cannot do on the regular Xbox One version. I think this year they're going to look for some way to distinguish it. And I don't think that just the resolution and the HDR is enough. And I think that they really do want to push that more like the most powerful console out there. I don't think they're getting that chance right now. And I think come near the end of the year that like they're going to be like something that only they could do on their system.
Interesting. That'll be cool. I wonder if that would be a thing. What would it be like? Overwatch having women and black people in it? Only on Xbox One.
Wow.
Only time you see a stream. Only time you see a stream on Xbox, that's the way you see all the diversity.
Wow.
That'd be great. Tanya, what is one of your predictions for 2018?
You just fucked me up. I think that we're gonna get a hint or an announcement of the next PlayStation later in the year, maybe a PSX. A hint, not definitive, not you'll have it in your hand by X date, because Xbox has had a new iteration now after the Xbox One. They've had the Xbox One S and now the Xbox One X. Sony has to do something. I've still got my launch edition PS4 and it's still running, but it's been what, 5 years, almost 5 years this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're going to get a hint of the next PlayStation console. I don't think that's far fetched.
Okay, we're gonna run back to Reef. And what is your pie in the sky? If you ruled the world, imagine that. You have all my sons. Prediction for 2018.
I love them, baby. That's my prediction.
Diamonds and pearls for your new console.
Wow.
So my prediction is that Sony and or Microsoft will come out with new controllers that mimic the Nintendo Switch Joy-Con controllers.
Ooh.
Meaning they will be controllers that split in two, you can control independently, and that have like the motion, and like all that stuff. That's my prediction. And like I don't mean these are going to be like third-party things. I mean they're going to be built by them, and I think that's what they're going to do. That's I can see Microsoft kind of wrapping that in as an option for their Elite controllers, and Sony I don't believe has anything comparable to the Elite controllers as of now, but they can roll that out as like a premium customizable controller where part of that customization is going to be Joy-Con like controllers.
Damn, that would be fire. Actually, that's a really good prediction. Tanya, what is your pie in the sky? If you have whatever you want in the video game world, prediction.
If I could have anything, I would want title and confirmation of voice actors in the next Dragon Age.
Ooh, okay. I dig that. It would be the whole cast of Black Panther.
Look, because they already hinted at going back to Tevinter, and we know that Tevinter has the brown folks, so...
that would be really interesting.
Okay, so I did read that the... I don't know what his role was, but that one of the main guys involved with the development of BioWare was heading up both Anthem and the Dragon Age reboot. Is that?
Well, it's not a reboot. It's be the next game.
Oh, I thought they said it was like a
No.
like they were going back to a remake or a reboot. I thought they were doing. Okay.
No, it's whatever the next game is in the series.
Because I'm just like, how are they going to develop both of these games now? If Anthem is coming out 2019, what?
My guess is, and this is just a guess based on stuff I've seen with the other games, is they probably were working on the next game as soon as the DLC, or even before the DLC for Inquisition wrapped.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
So my guess is that whatever's going on with Dragon Age probably is far more ahead than we would know as consumers.
Yeah.
Because remember, there was that big push for hiring a while back.
Mm-hmm.
And you need those people at a certain point. Excuse me. And I think with Anthem being pushed back, and with Montreal basically closing down, one studio can't simultaneously develop two games, I'm guessing. So my guess is we'll see a lot more of Anthem at E3 and other places, and maybe holiday 2019, early 2020. Holiday 2018, early 2019. We'll get something about whatever the next Dragon Age is. That's my guess, because that would fit more with kind of probably what's being developed. Because Anthem, even with the pushback to 2019, there's probably going to be something to show at E3 versus something for DA, whatever.
Interesting.
Oh,
okay.
Man. I can't wait to watch your streams. I can't wait to watch your stream on that.
Here's the interesting thing. I don't do a lot of speculation streams. I don't do videos like that. Because on the one hand, whatever information I may get access to as someone in the industry, it shifts. I mean, look at all the things that we see a year later is totally different.
Yeah.
So I'd never buy into fan speculation or stuff like that, where it's here's my pie in the sky, I would love to see this. But I usually wait for what is coming down the pike, because like with Inquisition, there was so much speculation, and same with Andromeda. I had to kind of shut that out so I could actually enjoy the game when it came out.
Right.
I dig it. I dig it. I dig it. I dig it. It's going to be really interesting to see how many of those things actually come to pass, because I think that would be real funky if. I'm really excited about both of those, about trying to figure out who's going to be voice actors for the new game and for that possible split controller idea. I think that would be so dope. It would be so cool. So dope.
Yeah.
So thank you everyone for hanging out with us tonight. We're going to get up out of here in 1 second. I want Reef to share the social media business with you all so that you can know where to find all our good works.
Sure. Spawnon.me. Go to the website, check out the archive of all our shows, check out our bios, check out all the good stuff that we have on that site. You can find us mostly via social media on Twitter and Facebook. Those are both under Spawn on Me. And if you want to subscribe to us via the audio podcast, you can go to iTunes, Overcast, all the places where you would normally pick up a audio podcast subscription. To search for Spawn on Me, and we're there as well as ESN.fm. And if you're not already watching the video stream, we stream our show live on twitch.tv/Spawn on Me every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to go above and beyond and support our efforts into making the best possible show, support our Patreon at patreon.com/spawnonme. Help us to reach our financial goals and receive access to our premium podcast, Spawn on Me After Dark, and our new political show, the Bricago Beltway. If you support our Patreon.
Word. Thank you everyone again for listening to us this week and every week. We hope to see you here again at Twitch. And February 1st, be sure that you are here. We're going to be doing some cool stuff for Black History Month. We can't say exactly what, but we're going to be in the front page of Twitch for our Thursday show on the 1st of February. So be sure that you're here, support the show, support the community, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be dope.
It's going to be super, super dope. So, again, thank you all. And we're going to get up out of here, and we say peace.
Peace.
All right, everybody. We're going to raid Major Linux. So give them some love. Go hang out over there. Give him some love. Tell him that we sent you and say hello to Linux, because he's a dope cat. So, again, thank you, everybody, for coming through and hanging out with us tonight. And we'll say peace. Later, y'all.